Let's see. All right, we are on. And so let's just to let you know, there's a little statement I have to make, and you have to either agree or disagree. Okay. This opening establishes the release to use your likeness, image in video and or audio recording. You hereby give your consent to B-Story Pictures and any subsequent company that houses the East Hammond, the Village Grapevine project. Further, you acknowledge and you give us the gratis, irrevocable worldwide rights in perpetuity, regardless of whether these materials are used for advertising, promotion, educational publicity, or other purposes on behalf of the company. The acquired digital file will remain the property of B-Story Pictures, its subsidiaries or agents. Finally, you waive all rights claims or damages. The exploitation of the recording of the oral history is acquired for the purposes of education, history, and to uplift the city of East Hammond and its residents. You attest that you fully understand and aforementioned. Do you agree?
Sure, it's not about money. I'm okay. I don't need no money.
Yeah, no, this is for the library. But anyway, it's all good. So I'm going to be asking you some questions, and now we can talk freely as we did a second ago. But now it's all on tape. So can we just start off with what your name and your age is?
Henry Poindexter Jr., 62 years old.
Okay, and tell me what street you grew up on in Hammond.
Well, I grew up on two. I grew up when I moved from Indianapolis. I lived on Field Street, and then from there we lived on Moss Street, and then from there we went to 929 Coffee Street.
Okay. Now, when you first got there, apparently your whole family moved from Indianapolis to Hammond. Is that what happened?
Yes, my primary family, yes, but we moved there from, we had family. We moved up there because my mom's folks lived in Chicago, and so we moved up there from Indianapolis, and because my mom had she had like five or four sisters that lived right there in Chicago, and where I went to elementary school, the first years of elementary school was in Indianapolis, Indiana School 20, and then we moved up there, and then I attended the last year at Maywood Elementary School.
Okay, so when you moved to Hammond, what was the street that you first moved on?
The first street we lived on was on Field Street.
Okay, Field Street. And so when you were in that house on Field Street, who was in that house with you?
Oh, this is me, my mom, and my dad, my sister.
Okay. Okay. Can you just name the people? Give me your mother's name, your father's name, and your sister's name.
My father's name was Henry Poindexter Sr., and my mother's name was Barbara Poindexter. My sister was Alfreda Poindexter, and I'm Henry Poindexter Jr.
Okay, excellent. So on that particular on Field Street, how long did you live on Field Street?
Oh boy, you're talking years ago, but I would say maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Year and a half, 2 years.
2 years. And so you have a special case because you lived on 2 or 3 different streets. So do you remember any of your neighbors on Field Street by any chance?
Yes, I remember on Field Street there was, what is this? Man, he lived on the corner of Fields. Doggone it. Man, it was... Man, it's been so long, it's slipped out of my mind. And, matter of fact, man...
okay, if you can't remember, it's okay. Just go to the next one. Do you remember any neighbors on Field Street when you were living there? Like to either side of your house?
And that's what I'm trying to remember, because he lived on the corner of... The family lived on the corner of... you had Holland and Tapper, and... I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and he was telling me he still lives there. He does, but his family doesn't live there anymore. You keep in mind now that I'm talking, I was 6th grade at that time. And I'm 60-something years
Okay,
old now.
so
But,
forget that particular guy because we can't remember him.
I can't remember.
Is there anybody else that you remember on Phil Street?
Oh, Phil
Any
Street.
neighbors?
Yeah. Well, the Collins.
The Collins, okay.
The Collins lived on the corner of Field and, I guess, Tapper by the barber shop there. The Collins lived on that corner.
Okay, that's the Collins Records. That's
yes, but their home was on the corner,
right.
and they had their house. They had their store on Conkey.
Okay, right.
They lived on the corner there. Oscar, is this? I'm trying to remember. Not him, not the Collins family, but doggone it, he's right there in the back of my mind. The one I want to tell you about that lived on the corner of Fields there. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so and you lived there for 2 years. Okay, and
right there.
And so when you were living there, what school did you go to there while you're on Phil Street?
I went to Maywood. I went to Maywood.
Okay.
Which I think was right there on Merrill Street, just a block behind us there.
Okay.
Because when we moved there, I went to Merrill, maybe to Maywood, and then later on I went to Spawn. Yeah.
Okay. So, but we're going to move up to Spawn because I want to go to different streets that you lived on. But so let's just get back inside your house there. So, your father, tell me what he did. Henry Poindexter Sr.
He worked at Republic Steel. And he worked for Republic Steel.
Okay, and what did he do at Republic Steel?
He was a crane. God bless his soul. He retired now, but he was he followed cranes around and hooked up cranes inside the steel mill. Okay.
And what was his shift like? Was he one of those midnight guys, or was he work days?
At first, he started off his swing shift. He worked swing shift and stuff like that, and good man, very good man. You know.
Oh, okay. So tell me just a little bit about him, and what did he do when you were not when he was not at work? I mean, some of the things that was he like politically inclined, or did he do stuff in the community? Or
no. My dad, he only had a I would say a 9th grade education at the most, or 8th grade education. But he came up. My mom and dad, they met. My dad served the Korean War. When we were in Indianapolis, he worked for a chemical company, pesticides, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved to Hammond, and he got on at Republic Steel, and he was a very humble man. Grew up with very little or no education, very little to none, because he was the oldest of his family, and he was from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, from Kentucky guy.
Yeah, he was from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And my mom was born in Mississippi as well as I was. I was born in Mississippi as well.
Okay.
And my dad served during the Korean War.
Okay. Now, what city in Mississippi was your mom and you born?
Starkville, Mississippi.
Okay, that's exactly where we were from. Starkville, Mississippi. My mom, she was born in Starkville, Mississippi, and
I was born in Starkville, Mississippi.
Okay, all right.
And my dad's my great aunt, which is my grandmother's sister on my father's side, is Wilma Rudolph.
The Wilma Rudolph, the track runner.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right.
That is my great aunt. That's my grandmother's sister. They came from Tennessee.
Oh, excellent. So now, if your dad is from Indianapolis, your mom is Starkville, how did they get together?
Well, my dad is not from Indianapolis. They moved there.
Oh, okay. Is your dad from Starkville as well?
No, my dad is from Kentucky by way of Tennessee.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Kentucky. You mentioned that.
He's from Kentucky. But now, if you ask me how they met, that I can't tell you. All I know is they were married for over 50 50 years. So
Okay.
I can't tell you.
On the road somewhere, they bumped into each other. I get you. And so when they hooked up at one point, it was in Indianapolis then, right?
Well, no, they were there, and we went. We moved to Indianapolis. We lived in Indianapolis. Yeah, as far as I can remember, because I was real young at the time when we moved to Indianapolis. So they moved to Indianapolis. I'm trying to think where they met. That I don't know. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But my childhood began in Indianapolis. I remember my Aunt Rudolph Wilma came to Indianapolis and visited us there. And but at that time, I was in elementary, very low, young.
Okay.
Young, very young. And we're talking at that time. We're talking early '60s. You know, a long time ago. Early '60s.
Right. Okay.
Early '60s. You know.
Okay. So your dad eventually moved to Hammond. I was just trying to get a little backstory of
sure.
Before you got to Hammond.
Well, Mom and Dad, we all moved to Hammond.
Okay, so
everybody moved to Hammond, and primarily the reason why we moved to Hammond was because my mom's sisters, them who all were from Mississippi, were living there already.
Okay.
And they convinced my mom and dad, which at that time we were living in Indianapolis, to move up there, and they did, and because my mom's sisters and a couple brothers lived there in Chicago, not in Hammond, but in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so my folks, we moved up to Hammond, and my mom had one sister living in Hammond that lived on Conkey, but she was a younger sister. But we migrated from south to by way of Mississippi, Kentucky. I don't know because I don't remember. I don't know how they how it took, but we moved from Mississippi, where my mom was from, and where I was born, where my sister was born, where my dad was born in Kentucky, to Indianapolis.
Right. Okay, we covered that. So check this out. Okay. So after Field Street, what's the next street you guys lived on?
Field Street, we went to Moss.
Okay, and why did you guys move from Fields to Moss?
At that time, I'm sure it had a lot to do with rent, cost of living, because I was young then. But I just put two and two together. It had to do with just a better. Because I remember on Field Street, which is not there anymore. That house is not there anymore. But it was a bigger house. Okay. It was a bigger house in which we moved into. And I'm sure it was a bigger house, and based on just the way people lived back then, cost had something to do with it as well. More bang for your buck. Even now,
Right. Okay.
Even though thinking back at then, it wasn't nothing that that a lot of people experienced, but it was. I would say it was a bit bigger, a little bit bigger.
Okay. And how many years did you stay there?
On Moss, we lived there for, went there, I would say 9-10 years, I guess.
Okay, so you spent a good time there, a good number of years there.
Yes, I'm trying to think, because when we moved there, I went to middle school and I went to high school, so maybe 10 years is a bit much, but maybe I would say 7 at the minimum, about 7 years.
Do you remember your neighbors there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Who on your right and left side and across the street?
Ricky Durr lived on the right.
Okay.
Ricky Durr lived on the right next door on the right-hand side. I can't remember the other house. The other house on the other side was a rental property, so can't remember the neighbors there, but on the other side of that, the Martises lived there.
Okay.
Eddie Jr. and the Martis family.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the side next door to them, the Green family lived.
Okay.
And then a couple doors down, the Short family lived on that street. That Barbara Ann and all them, they lived a couple of doors down from there. And then right, at the very end on the left, Jeff Winters lived there.
Okay.
Jeff Winters' family lived there. And then going back the other way, because our house was like our houses was two front houses from Howard, I guess it was. You had Tapler one and Howard on the other.
Right.
We were the second house from the Howard end. And on that end, Katrina, I can't remember, there was one or two white families that lived on the block there. One house named down by the Alexandra on the right next to the Short House. She sold candy to the neighborhood, but on the left, going from the left side, going toward the Howard side, if you go down across Howard, you had the Chase family, and you had the Skinner family that was on the corner, and they had of Howard and Moss. They had a convenience store, a little neighborhood store.
Oh yeah, also. The Skinners, I remember.
The Skinners, yeah, they had them right there. Yeah, so that's where I primarily grew up, right there in that area, right there.
Okay. And what was the vibe of the block at that? Was it just the time period that you're explaining right now?
It was awesome. Matter of fact, I wish my children could have experienced that at the time. As far as the families there didn't have a whole lot. They didn't have very much at all. None at all. They were working families, and they didn't make a lot of money. They didn't, but that wasn't important because it was a neighborhood. We grew up with the neighborhood that, you couldn't do anything that my parents gave permission to those that, if you saw me doing something wrong, you chastise him and then you send him home, and then I'll get him again.
Right. That's how it was. You absolutely.
I'll get him again. We didn't have a whole lot. We played tag football, and sometimes we only had a stick and a ball, and we had fun with just a stick and a ball. We didn't have. My parents didn't have. At that time, you didn't have Nike or any of that stuff. Nike or the big thing back then was Converse shoes, and none of us wore them. I got my first pair of Converse when I met Hammond, when I played ball at Hammond High School, and the school provided them for Hammond.
Oh yeah.
But my parents couldn't afford to pay for those or nothing like that. They couldn't buy it or pay for none of that. But we were. You asked go back to what the question you asked me. How did we feel? We felt great because we played. We had fun. It was honest living and was good and respect. And yes, we kids, we got into our little squabbles amongst ourselves. But we knew that the neighborhood would keep us together, and we knew that anything outside, if you did something wrong, you didn't have to worry about your mom and dad seeing you. You had to worry about who else might see you that knows your mom and dad.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
And
so stickball in the street, and when you say it's great, give me some analogies of great. Why do you think it was great? And I already know why, but I just want to hear it coming from you.
Well, it was great because it was a community involvement, and it was great because they were saying that you can have an argument with someone today and the best friends tomorrow. We grew up in a world that anger and so forth was short-lived, and that you can be mad with someone today and the best of friends tomorrow. Which this world has a lot to learn.
Exactly.
There's a lot to learn.
Exactly.
That's the environment that I grew up in.
Right.
I grew up in an environment that, so it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. As a matter of fact, my mom used to tell me, don't never be mad. It's just be upset. But,
right. If you're mad, you're crazy. Right.
Exactly. Be upset. But don't dwell on things and hold it.
Right.
Don't dwell there's few treasures in life. Life holds a lot of treasures, and some of those treasures, she used to tell me, she said, son, you can love me, but I can make you upset.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm teaching you this to tell you this. One day in your life, you're going to meet someone that you're going to love with all your heart, but they're going to upset you too. But remember, I'm your mother. I brought you into this earth. If you can upset me, and if you can be upset with me, and you can forgive me, why can't you forgive that other person?
That's a good lesson. Okay.
Because you love me, and there's going to be times I'm going to tell you to do something that you don't understand, and you're going to think mom and dad is the worst people in the world. But you're gonna, and as time passes, you're gonna forgive me because I'm your mom and your dad, and you still gonna love me. Why can't you give that same respect to someone else that wins your heart?
Okay, that's a good lesson. What incidentally, what did your mom do for a living while she was there?
Well, she was mainly a housewife.
Okay.
And then she went on to work for Rand McNally. But she only worked there a few years, and that's how I got my first job. I worked for Rand McNally right there on Conkey Street. I worked there for summer. I was still going to school at the time, and I worked there. And but I got that job through my mom, and I worked there for a little bit.
Okay. And so you basically, while your dad was working, who was the most feared? Was it your mom or your dad? Who did you fear the most?
I guess I would say both.
Okay.
I would say both, because mom would put and you know what? And I'm gonna tell you something that I don't feel bad saying now. At the time when I grew up, I remember I got whooping with the extension cord.
Well, you know what? I'm in that club too.
and nowadays they would consider that child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time my mom whooped me. She put me in my sister's Frida. She put her. She had a little. You know how they had the little doll kitchenette set, the little table,
right?
And small, and she set me in that chair and told me not to move, and she whipped me with an extension cord, but I would take that extension cord whooping versus hearing my dad's mouth.
Oh, okay.
Because my dad talked to me as a young man. And he's the one that taught me the values of work and importance. Dad wouldn't whoop me, but mom whooped me from her heart. It's a difference. You understand?
Right.
Mom whooped me because it hurt her.
Right.
Dad would not whoop me, but he would talk to me in a way.
That was worse than the whooping.
Worse than the whooping. It was worse than the whooping.
Yeah.
I guess what it is, and that's what a lot of young men today don't understand when they're dealing with the especially the young men in their life that they brought into this life.
Right.
That you have to start off talking to boys, especially boys. I'm talking boys. I'm just talking boys. You have to start off talking to them in a way that they're going to be responsible for somebody's daughter one day.
Exactly.
And that's the way my dad talked to me. You're going to be responsible for somebody's daughter.
Exactly.
And he said, you got a sister. And how do you want that person to take care of your sister?
Okay. Those are good lessons. Those are good lessons that, the younger generation may not get those lessons because, you got babies having babies and they haven't learned anything, so how can they teach anybody anything?
No. And the young men don't know anything about being responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Where my father, where he raised me was, you the man. You have to have show being a man, not just financially, but as the man of the household. And you're the disciplinary, and no matter how times go and change, you're going to be looked at as the man in the house. The strength, not just financial, but the strength.
Mm-hmm.
The strength, the backbone of the family.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The backbone of.
So, did you get all of your moral, ethical, and philosophical ideas from home, or were there other people in the street that were mentors or whatever that gave you some of that?
No, it was home. It was home and community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, community. So those are the people, also the people I'm talking about. Who were some of the
Right.
people in the community who gave you some of that?
Miss Durr,
Okay, Miss Durr.
Miss Nance,
Okay.
Miss, she passed away now. Miss Gertrude.
Okay. So, Gertrude.
Miss Gertrude.
That's. I thought you said she was still alive. The one that lived next door to me.
Yes, she is. But still, she. She didn't mind telling me, put it this way, she didn't tell me, but, not that I did anything wrong, but she didn't have a problem selling her opinion. We put it that way.
Okay. Oh no, the older ones.
Indirectly.
She must be at least 96 or something now.
Yeah, she's up in age now. She's still living. She's still with us. God bless her.
Okay.
She's still with us.
Okay.
Still with us.
At one point, I might have to, if you can get that number, I would love to talk with her.
Yes,
That's on.
I have her number.
Oh, excellent! I'll get some from you after the end of this, especially free.
But I don't know it by heart. I have to text it to you because
yeah.
I can't.
No, it's all
I
good.
can't view it from my phone.
Okay, so tell me, who are some of the people like now, when you lived on Mall Street that you ran with, like going to school and this that and that? Who were your homies?
Some are gone now. Some younger than me that are gone.
Okay, like name some names, like some people, even if they're gone. Tell me.
Well, of course, the Chase family. They back in the day, it's old school, but the Chase family was a dominant family on the block. They were dominant family without the community.
Oh,
We grew up in a community where, especially with the Chases or any, if you got you got one, you got to fight them all. It was
right. And they had a house full.
They had a house full. But the Chase family and then the Martis family.
Mm-hmm.
And that, not only did that go with Eddie Jr., who he's gone now. He passed. So then I don't know exactly because I had left many years, but I heard he was, and I don't know for sure, but I think something bad happened to him. Put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the same thing.
Right.
Obviously, he's my cousin. So.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Right.
Marcus, it ties all together.
Well, because my Uncle Ed, lived right there, and
Yeah, that's right. And doggone it, we leaving out a whole bunch of stuff there because Bootsy was a good friend of
Oh, yeah.
Bootsy and Jackie and all of them were right there too. And I how can I leave out Jackie? Because Jackie was the one that used to come out and play basketball in Zaza belts and Converses when everybody else had nothing. Jackie used to come out there and play basketball. We didn't have no Converses or nothing like that, and I was never able to get them. But Jackie had them early on.
Oh, Jackie White, yeah.
Jackie White. He had on Zaza belts and Converses, and he'd be out there, and he had a good game too. He could play some ball.
Exactly. And my
but
cousin as well. But yeah.
Oh, Bootsy, yeah. IU, big time.
Oh yeah.
Big time IU. Yes. And Jackie, well, I hate it because he had game, but he never pursued it. He had game.
Oh yeah.
Jackie had game, and he had height.
Yes.
He had, and he could handle the ball. He could shoot the ball. and all that in Converses, and which at that time, if you had on a pair, I didn't get my first pair until I went to high school. But Jackie was wearing Converses long before then. He was,
Right,
Jackie,
right.
he was wearing Converses, and he'd be out there in nice dress slacks and be balling. I mean balling.
Right.
And he never at Tech. He never, he went to Tech. He never went out for the team or anything. But yet we get to meet together. We play ball in the summertime, and everybody wanted to pick Jackie up. He wanted to pick him up, but yet he didn't go play ball in school. But he had skills.
Oh, yeah. No, I know he had crazy skills. And I've often wondered why some people with certain talents, in the street and this, that, and the other, but there was something missing that humph, that get up and go, to be more progressive, and utilize that talent to a higher extent. You know what I mean? It's like, what is it that would make a person go from, because there are people who rose up from Hammond too, like Irv Cross, and there are various people who, were progressive,
like you and me.
Yes, I mean,
like you and me.
We did various things that go on and stuff, but I'm just saying, because Hammond was a really small town, and when I was little, I thought it was the biggest city in the world. But,
oh man, and I think about it now, and then you think about from Maywood Park to Cleveland, everything that went on between Maywood Park and Cleveland. And I think about the summer programs that Maywood Park used to have, where we got doing summer break. We had jobs. I remember working at the park at Maywood doing in the summertime community job type things, which they don't have now.
right.
And right there at the pavilion right there at Maywood Park, and they would freeze it over in the winter and ice skate in the wintertime. But anyway, we had summer jobs that we did, and it was provided by the city, that they don't do anything now.
Mm-hmm.
And that kept a lot of youth out of trouble. I mean, not out of trouble, but give them something to do.
Right.
And I grew up with that, and they had the paddle ball and all that there in the park.
So I wanted you to chime in on that intangible thing that some people had in Hammond and some people didn't have in Hammond, that makes a person go to the next level. Do you have any idea what that might be?
Sure. I have an idea, somewhat of an idea.
What might that be?
I think what it is, and it's true today, even to today. Parents, a lot of times, we love our kids so much that, and I see it with my older kids now. My oldest, younger and older kids.
Mm-hmm.
My older child is 43, and my youngest child is 27, and I have 5. I have 3 in between there.
Can you just name them, just so on record, so we know who they are? From the oldest to the youngest?
Eugene.
Okay.
Tracy, Dee Dee, Dominique, and Andre.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And,
so you were chiming in on what that thing is that makes you a person.
Yes, yes, and I'll tell you, and I was getting back to that. What it is, unfortunately, in life, sometimes in life, and a lot of times in life, when you are raising a family, a lot of times your older children go through times with you when you're young as a family and as parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, you're struggling to get ahead. So therefore, they don't have as much because they're right there with you at that time when you're struggling. You're a new family.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? You're a new family. Your first child, your second child, whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time that second or third child come along, you progress a little bit more in your job
Mm-hmm.
in life, and you're making a few more dollars more than. Well, the first child you might have been renting. By the time that second child come along, you're buying.
Right.
And so, as parents, we always want our children to have more than what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when that first child doesn't get as much because that first child is right there when you're starting out.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time that second child come along, you're making a few more dollars. Maybe the wife is working then where she wasn't working before.
Mm-hmm.
And so the house income is increased.
Right.
And so that second child gets a little bit more benefits than that first child did.
Right.
And it goes on and on if you have two or three more after that, or one or two more after that. And so, but what happens is, because we tend to want more for our children, as that second or third or fourth come along, we tell ourselves we want to give them what we didn't have. So you give them more and more. And in most cases, or not, if they do studies, and I can verify, and you can verify that the older ones tend, in most cases, to end up better than the younger ones, because the older ones were able to deal with and go through the hardships.
Right. And
where
adversity.
the younger, where the younger ones, by the time the younger ones came along, mom and dad was a little bit more successful, and they can hand things to them and give them things and spoil them, as they'll say. But and it's really tough because that's all any parent wants to do is spoil their child.
Right. No,
But when you're starting out older, you can't spoil them. I mean, not older, but younger. You can't spoil them. You're still trying to get your feet established and to make it better. But I'd be willing to bet you if you did test on the first child that's born in a family, I'd be willing to bet you that in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, they are successful. And you'll usually find the problem in the second wave of children. Because those are the ones that were spoiled.
right.
And
Right.
things were handed to them.
So
Where-
is the theme, is the overall theme, make the kids do for themselves?
No, well, what it is, and my mom never told me, my mom, old school, they used to tell me this too. Parents get tired over years.
Okay.
You know, when you have that first one or two, you know, you're young.
Right.
And you've got that discipline built up in you, and you've got that, you know, I'm gonna keep that thumb on them and make them good kids. That other. But by the time that third or fourth come along, of course, with that third or fourth come along, you yourself as a parent, you 5, maybe 10 years older too, and you're tired. You get tired.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you get tired because you put all your emphasis in the first one or two,
Right.
and it's not shawning.
So how do you fix that? You can't throw the younger ones away. And
No,
so,
you're not. But what I'm saying is your discipline as a parent
Mm-hmm.
starts to slack off. And I raised 5, so I can tell you, I can think about how I was with the first 2 and how I was with the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
Age has a lot to play in raising children. It has a lot to play.
Right. Now, how old were your parents when they raised you guys in Hammond? When you were living on Fields?
Oh boy. Well, my dad is. Well, this is another thing too. So you document this. Me and my dad were born January 29th. My sister and my mom was born February 10th. We're the only 2. I was born on my dad's birthday, and Frida was born on my mom's.
Okay.
I'm the exactly same age as my sister, as my dad is, and my mother.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Okay. Cool.
And
so
we have, and so I would say that my parents, when they raised me, I mean, they were adults. They were. My mom, she didn't have me. I would say my mom was like 19, 20 at that time, or 20, 21. It wasn't a young age, you know what I'm talking about. So, it wasn't a young age. If my mom was living now, she'd be in her 80s, way up in her 80s. I would say up in her 80s. I'm 60. I'll be 63. So yeah, yeah. So it wasn't an early birth or anything like that. They both were adults. They both were adults.
Okay. So, we were also we were starting to talk about some of the people you ran with, and you talked about the Skinners and the Chases and this, that, and the other. Talk about eventually getting to, you went to Hammond High, right?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about Hammond High and what that was like at the time, and give me the racial breakdown. Was it more black than white, more white than black? And I know there's a lot of Polish people in Hammond at the time, but what was the makeup, and was there any kind of racial disparities, or what was your experience like at Hammond High?
Okay, at Hammond High, I would say it was, I guess, 75% white, maybe a little bit more.
Okay. And just what was your experience like at Hammond? Do you feel Hammond High? Did you feel that you had a great education that set you up for the future, as far as what you're doing now, as far as the Army, as far as your kids, and how was Hammond High as far as your development as a person?
As a person, I think there was two people.
Okay, you're breaking up.
You hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I got you. Go ahead. Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. Go ahead.
Okay. I said two. There was one person at Hammond High when I was there. My experience there.
I'm sorry, there was one person? What do you mean by that?
One person experience in my life there of opposite persuasion.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Of opposite persuasion. That was Miss Buss, and you could tell all these years she still I can still remember her.
Okay.
She was my music teacher, and she taught music as far as singing. She was a choir director. Miss Buss was. She was a choir director. As far as, and I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball. The whole time I was there, I guess two people, doggone it. Yeah, Miss Buss was my school music teacher, and Cartwright.
Okay.
I think that's his name, because he went on and played college and came back to coach at Hammond High. But as far as there was a difference at the school. Nobody, back in those days, you knew it was a difference.
Okay, what was the difference? Try to give me some examples.
Well, we were from the other side of the track.
Okay.
We were from the other side of the track.
For the people who will read this 10 years from now, they may not know what the other side of the track is. So
the other side of the track was you had a black community.
Okay.
And you had the others.
Okay.
You had the black community and you had the others.
Okay. And in your opinion, what's the difference between those on one side of the track and the other side, besides racial things? Was there privilege, or what was the difference?
Oh yes, there was privileges as far as scholarships to go on to better yourself in school. There were scholarships leadership differences. There was even playing differences, as far as you saw it even with players, as far as you can be a little bit better, but you weren't going to get that position on the team because you know who you were, you know, or what you weren't. Put it that way.
Okay.
You know, I can remember, and even in the police force there, I can remember, and the police force was right there across from Hammond High, there in the city, right there. It was on Highland and right there at the end of Maywood Park. But I don't remember seeing any black police officers.
Okay. Well, there was actually one, Ronnie Rowe. He was the first black police officer there.
Right. But you would think, since it's sitting right there on the edge of the black neighborhood,
right, they would have more. Right. No, I get you.
They would have more. You know.
But that was a breaking ground time for a lot of first. You know, and you also said that you were one of the first groups to go to school at Spohn, right?
Yes. I went to the first year it opened. I went there the first year it opened. Yeah, I remember when Spohn it was being built, and we were the first class. But I was sixth grade. You know, Spohn was sixth, seventh, and eighth, I think.
Right. I actually went to Spohn too.
Right.
And I don't know if I was the first class. I don't even remember that. That's interesting.
No.
But
I was the first class. When I say first class, I was the first of the sixth, seventh, and eighth group that go to Spohn.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
In other words, I was sixth grade. The year it opened, I was sixth grade. And then you had the seventh and eighth. But we all went there the first year. You follow what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
That was the first year that the sixth, seventh, and eighth grades went there.
Right. Okay. So now, were you one of the lucky people who got a ride to school, or did you have to walk?
I walked.
Okay, you like me?
I walked without a shadow of a doubt. No, matter of fact, you know what? It's funny. I look back at it. We enjoyed it then. You know, I look at young people now. They don't want to walk. We enjoyed walking to school.
That's actually true. And the biggest joy for me was to walk past that Hostess factory smelling.
Oh, the bakery place.
The bakery. Oh,
yeah.
man.
Oh, man. I used to go in there and get 3 cupcakes for 12 cents. I could go in there and 12 cents, I could get 3 Hostess cupcakes.
That's right. The Twinkies, especially when it was cold outside. You could walk past there and smell that.
Boy.
That'll warm you up.
Those were the days. I went to Boy Scouts there and everything at Spohn, you know. Sixth grade.
So, tell me around that time too, if you know of any like movers and shakers in the community, people who got stuff done, especially because I'm talking about East Hammond, and East Hammond was the black side of town. And
in East Hammond at that time, I think, and it's been so long now, I'm trying to remember names. The movers and shakers at that time in the church, because I went to Mount Zion Baptist Church, and Reverend Burns was my pastor. And but at that time too, I remember old Maywood. We used to go roller skating up there at Maywood at right there on Conkey and Howard or whatever. You know, roller skating up there all the time. But the movers and the shakers. Let me see. As far as in the church community at that time, you had Mount Zion and you had on Ames. It was a Methodist church, New Hope.
New Hope, right.
You had Mount Zion and New Hope. And you have to keep in mind the reason why I say movers and the shakers back in that time, and I wish we had a little bit more of it today. Church was a foundation of how people raised their kids at that time, and so your movers and your shakers were in church, and then you had your bad elements outside of the church.
But do you remember any specific people who made stuff happen in the community?
Talk Miss Landry.
Miss Landry?
I don't know if you heard of her.
Okay, now what did she do? Just
She was our choir director.
okay.
She was a musician. Boy, God bless her soul. She could sing and play that piano.
Okay. All right.
She lived on Cleveland at the corner across from Jackie's mom and dad's house, Caddy Corner.
Okay. Uh-huh.
You remember where?
Yeah, right on the corner.
Mr. Otis and lived right there. Otis, that was the name, right? Otis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he lived right there on the corner. Sherdale.
Sherdale Artist, right?
Yeah, Sherdale. Yeah, it's coming back slowly.
Right. No, I get you. I get you. I'm trying to remember all this too. As a matter of fact, every time I talk to somebody, it brings back memories. So we have Miss Laundry and we have Reverend Burns as movers and shakers.
Miss Landry.
Uh-huh.
Miss Landry, Reverend Burns, and son. Yeah, he came on later. Reverend Burns' son. That came from his name. And then, boy, it's been so long now. You asked me, and I'm sure it was some back during that time that, and I don't know if you remember, back at that time, we had the band too.
Oh yeah.
And,
now did you play saxophone?
Yeah, I played sax. I got an old picture of me playing sax.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that sax.
Yeah,
that's
I played
right.
sax, and Vernon and Randall, father.
Right.
Yeah, he was a professional, and he used to take us to his studio, and we'd practice over there because he played horn, and that's how we picked up on the horn. And then me and Terry and Dwayne McClendon and Teddy McClendon and Jeff Morrow,
Right.
And Chucky Smith.
Right.
We formed the Soulful Sensations back then.
Right. I
was the name
have
of
a
it.
picture somewhere of you guys rehearsing in Chucky's kitchen.
Yeah. We played at Hammond High School. We played in Chicago. We played in. Me and Terry was talking about that last night. The different events that we played for. We played in the talent show in Gary at Westside High.
Oh yeah.
The year after the Jacksons were discovered. We played in the same talent show, but it was a year later.
Oh, okay.
It was a year later.
The Soul Sensations. I get you.
The Soulful Sensation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that because there was a lot of music people or music that came up from Hammond. I mean, the Hildreth, Johnny Hildreth, and
Yeah, well, wait a minute. How could I leave Johnny out? Because Johnny was our bass player.
Right.
Johnny was our bass player, and Recifer, who played the drums for the Jacksons, Recifer, he came to our rehearsal a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that Recifer? I'm trying to think of his name. I can't remember now. But yeah, Johnny was our bass player from the very beginning. Johnny played bass. Dee played lead.
Mm-hmm.
Terry and Teddy alternated drums. And on saxophone, and that was unusual at that time. On saxophone, on horns, we had 4 horn players. We had Chuck.
Right.
We had Vernon. We had
Vernon was a sax, right?
Yeah, but we had 3 saxes.
Okay.
Vernon, Randall, and me played sax, and Chucky played trumpet.
Right.
And that was unusual at that time for kids our age.
Right.
We had a full band.
Right.
We had 4 horns, lead guitar, bass guitar, drums, and concussion.
Percussion.
Percussion. Yes. Whoever, in other words, between Teddy and Terry. Whichever one didn't play the drums, because they both were talented at drums.
Okay.
Whichever one didn't play the drums, the other played the maracas or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, yeah, the percussionist. Okay. That's a full-fledged band right there.
We had a full-fledged band, and we weren't but 13 to 15 years old.
Okay.
13 to 15.
What was the biggest gig you guys played, do you think?
Oh, boy, Terry mentioned it to me last night, and I forgot it. It was in Chicago. Terry, ask Terry, because I was talking with him last night, and he was telling me about it. And he said, you remember when we did this? And I said, you're right. We did wedding receptions. We played at Hammond High Sock Hops. We at that time, we were rocking. We were rocking.
That's what year do you think that was?
We were back there when Stevie Wonder first broke out with Signs Still Delivered.
Oh, yeah.
We could play it to the T, to the heart, to the T.
That's
horns and all of it.
Now, did you get a lot of that from your choral teacher at Hammond High?
Yes, because Miss Bird I gave you her name a minute ago. Yeah, but she, me and Jeff Morrow played in. We sung in we sung in the barbershop quartet at Hammond High. There were one on a part. And it was four of us, so we sung in the barbershop quartet at Hammond High. And then Dee and Terry and all of them, we met later on in the hood. You know, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. No, we did that before me and Jeff went to Hammond High. But because we weren't going to Hammond High at the time when the band started. You know, but then later on, me and Jeff sung together in the barbershop quartet at Hammond High School. Prior to that, I can remember Christmas. I got my sax. It was on Christmas Day, and that was a struggle for my parents at that time to get me a horn at that time. And I'm sure just like all of ours was at that time, but they saw the commitment we had in ourselves, and they wanted us to do something for ourselves. You know?
Right. And that's good. I mean, and if you think back on it, you know, those summers and stuff, it's like there's a lot of time to learn something. I mean,
right.
know.
And they kept us out of trouble.
Exactly.
They kept us out of trouble. And parents were great back then, you know, and my parents, because I can remember a couple of years before then, I didn't get anything for Christmas. Nothing at all.
And I'm sure that broke their heart, too.
And yes, and it surprised me that morning I got that sax. The case was there, brand new saxophone.
Okay.
And to look at them and to see how they felt when I opened that case.
You know, it's funny when, you know, you say, you know, I remember one Christmas, you know, we didn't get nothing. It's kind of like, you know, you could, it would be equivalent to a modern day, you can call it ghetto or whatever you want to call it, but I didn't ever think of it as we're living in the ghetto. It was just because it was always all for one for all, and you didn't know you were poor. We didn't know we were poor. Sometimes we had to go eat at my Aunt Robbie's house. And, you know, Chucky's mom's. But it was just like, okay, we're going over there to eat tonight, kind of thing. And so, it's just... But
and they lived on Moss then, right?
They lived on Moss, right across the street.
From the Chase's house.
Right across the street from Chase's, yeah.
Yes, I remember.
So, but you know, you didn't soak in the part where, you know, oh, we're poor. And because you didn't know you were, you know, the parents was doing whatever they had to do to make the dollar, to, you know, to raise you, to get the sax, to this, that, and the other. So, really, those were the good days. I say good days, but, you know, no one wants to, you know, say that, you know, not having is good days, but those were the days that it was one for all for one, and with the neighbors, and, you know, it was actually exactly. So
exactly, it was all for one, and some of the meals we had then. Of course, what you're saying, some of the meals we had then. A lot of people, you know, you would think they were poor meals, but they were good meals. You know, greens and ham and chicken and dressing and these meals don't cost a lot to make.
No,
but they were so good, and I still, to them. You know.
Well, you know that a lot of people came from the South. Like you originally came from Starkville, Mississippi. My mom came from Starkville, Mississippi. My dad came from Oklahoma. But a lot of people came from the South to the North for job opportunities and raise their family better and this, that, and the other. But what they brought with them was that the cooking and the food and stuff
and the familyhood
and the familyhood. I mean that whole thing was just a part of that stick-to-itiveness. As far as things were hard, but at least you still had family. And if you couldn't depend on anybody, you could depend on the family and
family and community.
And community. Oh yeah.
And at that time, I can remember when we talk about Ricky and we talk about, like you say, with your cousins on Moss and with Chucky and them and so forth, and Jackie and them and so forth. I can remember I could go in anybody's house and if they would you like something to eat?
Exactly.
Would you? And everybody offered. And everybody offered, but at the same time, everybody offered to give out that discipline too.
You got to take the good with the bad. So, I'm gonna feed you, but you better do right. That's right. That's right. And it was all good, and you end up doing right too.
Exactly.
Because you knew that there was eyes on the streets watching your butt.
Yeah. Exactly, and you get it twice. In my case, you get, because Barbara, my mom, rest her soul, she told me, you get them and then send them on home to me.
Right. So I tell you what. Tell me your recollection of. The main street there was Conkey Street, the main thoroughfare.
Yes.
Tell me, and there was a good part of Conkey, and then there was a questionable part of Conkey.
Yes.
Give me your recollection of that.
I can remember was he a family member of yours? Who was shot?
You talking about Donnie? Who are you talking about?
Donnie Haskins.
Yes, Donnie Haskins. No, he wasn't a family member, but,
No, right. No, he wasn't a family member. But I remember when he was shot, not far from, I think it was right in front of where my mom's house is, but it wasn't her house at the time, my mom and dad's. Right there in the 900 block of Conkey. But, the 1000 block, the 10 and the 11 was the rough part back in that day of Conkey. 11, I'm going toward Columbia. I'm trying to get the numbers straight.
Yeah, it was on. You're right. It's that was the part where they had the taverns and
yes, they had the pool halls and all that. And at that time, it was like one strip. The rest of the neighborhood was like neighborhoods,
right.
Just neighborhood. But Conkey was like the strip.
Right.
You could say, Conkey was the strip. And if you own Conkey, you can expect anything bad to jump off. And then I can remember back at the time when I went to the back there, you had the Blackstone Rangers, you had the Kangaroos, and those were the two predominant gangs in that area. But they neither one were from Hammond. They were from Gary and Chicago.
Where were the Blackstone Rangers from?
The Blackstone Rangers from Chicago.
Oh, they're from Chicago. Okay.
They were from Chicago.
And then the Kangaroos were from Gary?
I think they're from Gary. I think the Kangaroos were from Gary. And I can remember the corner right there by the barbershop. The one you just spoke of,
Jesse's,
right there, Tapper and
Jesse's
Jesse's barbershop. A bunch of guys got sprayed and shot right there on that corner. I can remember when that happened.
And we actually lived about maybe 4 or 5 houses down
from that. Yeah, down from that. They got sprayed. We called it sprayed at that time. Somebody just nowadays they call it walk-bys or shot-bys or drive-bys.
Right.
They call it that. But back then, especially because that was in the height of the Blackstone Rangers, and the Black Panthers coming out. They were strong at that time too. They were getting there. They were coming up strong. Because I can remember going to Chicago to visit my cousin. He lived off of 51st, 55th and Morgan, over in that area. 55th and Morgan and 51st and Calumet. In Chicago were rough back in those days. They were rough. And I can remember going over there with them, and we couldn't even go to the store unless we were with one of them, because you had to know what neighborhood you belonged in.
Right.
You couldn't say and I remember one night we went over there. We went to the store, and my mom and them, we left Hammond. We went over to my mom's house. I mean, my mom's sister's house that lived on Morgan. Rest her soul, she's gone now. My cousin Billy. We were over there. No, we were over there. That's her son, cousin. So we went to the store. And we coming back from the store, and some guys came up to us and said, "Give me your potato chips. Give me what you got. Give me what you got."
That's true.
Give me what you got. And my cousin, and he told us that we're Blackstone. We live in Blackstone neighborhood, and they let us go. We left. We went on by. But you had to know where you were, and you had to be with somebody in that neighborhood. You couldn't just, like in that situation where I was there and I just went over to the store and got some and then walked back to the house. That wouldn't have worked.
Right.
Because they all knew who grew up and who lived and belonged in that neighborhood. You know, and that at the time, and I've had talks with my younger kids. I said, y'all know gangs. Back when I grew up, they had gangs. I mean, gangs and it's unfortunate. And I said, I'm glad to see things have gotten somewhat better. But
I don't actually think they've gotten better. I think they've gotten worse, because now, I mean, at the time that we grew up, I think that, when once again, you even said yourself that you can get in a fight and next day you guys are eating ice cream together. and so it used to be a fist fight, but now it's all about the gun. And at least you lived to see another day back then. Now you don't live to. I mean, there were separate incidences where people got shot like Donnie, this, that, and the other, but it wasn't rampant. Like if you look at the statistics in Chicago now, it's 500 homicides a year, just blacks killing blacks and police officers killing blacks, and it's just crazy.
Right, and you're right about that. The black on black crime has gotten ridiculous. It's gotten ridiculous, and and I don't know what the solution is to that, because it's always been black on black.
Well,
I'm talking about, because let me tell you this, because yes, back in East Hammond, like I said, when you go across Calumet, you had the white. Back when I grew up, and you had the black, and we got our clashes going on. But even in the hood, you had that, and I guess it goes on in white communities also, that you got to have the dominant, you got to have the alpha male. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the alpha in every community, and I'm sure the whites have that same thing. But you're right in the respect that the violence has turned up as far as the way the fights are being done. Now it's shooting and all of that. I agree with you there. But what I'm talking about is black people have always had this, even since, I don't know, maybe it's part of slavery and thing that we had to feel like we had to compete against each other.
You're talking about the crabs in the barrel kind of philosophy, where it's kind of like people pulling each other down, because you see people trying to get out the barrel, or crab trying to get out the barrel. They're trying to get out too, so they're grabbing at you. And it's kind of thing. But I think that black on black thing is because if you look at the demographics of the United States, and blacks represent 13.6% of the population, and people around where they are. Like whites kill whites, blacks kill black. I mean, in the area, because that's who they see. That's what they bump against, and and so Mexicans, kill Mexicans, this, that, and the other. So it's only because of who they see, and or who they're up against every day.
Well, why we highlight it so much?
Oh, well, because that's what media does. Is that media wants to show us in a negative situation, so it seems, and like they'll say, oh, these black people on welfare. Well, did you know there's more white people on welfare than black people on welfare?
Oh, yes. I know it already. Yeah. I know it already. And down here in Corpus, where I live, the population is 70-some% Hispanic.
Yeah.
It's 70-some% Hispanic.
Yeah.
But yet, the times they love to highlight the blacks on the news.
Well, because it's that institutionalized racism that's hard to get around that, and it's easier. We've been singled out, throughout history, and as far as after slavery and Emancipation Proclamation and civil rights, Jim Crow civil rights, and all, I mean we're still struggling from where we were a long time ago, and it's easier
and slowly to recognize the accomplishments that we have given to society.
We've given a ton. I mean, it's so evident. Let me just say this. It's so evident, and to even the 2016 Olympics, when the black female swimmer is the first black female swimmer to get this award, a gold medal, and they didn't even cover. NBC neglected to cover her ceremony because they were covering something else, and they didn't feel that was important enough to cover that, and that was a historical thing for black people. Number one.
Exactly. Or just like my aunt, Wilma Rudolph.
Yes.
She was the first black woman to ever win 3 gold medals. The first woman, period.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
In the 1962 or 63 Olympics.
Right. Right.
And
no,
every day they go out there and they stop at a traffic light. They don't think who made that light.
A black man. Yeah. It's like, well,
every day they sweep their house with a broom.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there have been numerous inventions by black inventors that have been swept under the rug, and this, that, and the other. And I think because we were talking about earlier about what is the difference and what is the solution kind of thing. I think a lot of younger black youngsters don't really understand that we were very powerful at one point, and we're still powerful at this point. Yes. But it's just that our counterparts are sweeping it under the rug. But we're great inventors, great creators. I mean, even if you go back to the starting of the civilization, and in terms of we were masons, and we go back to Africa. We were masons, and the person who even created Washington D.C. in terms of building and constructions and this, that, and the other, and organizing was Benjamin Banneker.
Right, well, like Michelle said, she's living in a house that was built by slaves.
Well, yes, but I'm talking about the person who even designed Washington D.C.
Yes. Well, I'm a Mason also.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm a Mason.
And that's important to know, that because it's just in terms of pride and self-esteem and this, that, and the other, because it's been beaten down so much. So some of even the younger kids in Hammond who now see, unfortunately, Hammond has changed a little bit. So the makeup of the city and that Andy Mayberry RFD kind of vibe is no longer here, and because of whatever. And but some of those kids need to know a little bit of that history to know that you are already great and you came from great stock. So now you need to embellish upon that, and move to the next level, because you are already great. It's just that everybody else is telling you you're not. They're putting you on the television and saying this person shot this person and those Negroes are just all run amok. But everybody is not like that. And so
I do everything in my part to show them that that's not true.
Yes.
Because you and we came from East Hampton.
Exactly.
And I live a successful life as well as you, as well as Dwayne, as well as Jeff Morrow.
Jeff Morrow, and there's a ton of people. It's not as they all appear to. Our counterparts appear to make it look, is that we're all ghetto and we don't do this, that, and yeah. It's that there are people doing stuff. This project alone will show people that the goodness comes from the historical portion of the people, the first black people who came from Hammond, and just the generation who's come up from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that are raised people who go on to do various things around the nation. And so there's a lot. Go ahead.
And see, what I think that is, and what I think that is those that are, let's bring some light to Hammond. I think, as far as that goes, I think what it shows that those that stay tend not to do as well. Those that choose to leave do better. So what do you say about the community of Hammond?
Well,
no. What I'm saying is there's some cases there, like my dad, but at that time he had a decent job. He worked at the steel mill, because at that time, not too many. At that time, a garbage can handler made $11 an hour, and it was hard to get them jobs. As far as just picking up the trash in the East Hammond. The salvation. I mean, the sanitary workers.
Right.
That was a decent job at that time. But I'm thinking back at that time when I grew up in East Hammond, there wasn't that many people in East Hammond. They either worked in the steel mill,
right,
if they were lucky.
Right. And my dad worked in the steel mill, Inland Steel. Yeah.
Inland Steel, right. If they were lucky.
Right.
And that was the predominant job. My dad worked at Republic Steel. And that was the lucky ones. And it's not like they made a ton of money.
Right. Exactly. But you know what happened is, and you can even look at Gary, is that when robotics came in, and the steel mills were putting the robotics in, at one point Inland Steel had about 30,000 people. And but the problem is, when robotics came in, they got rid of 25,000 and kept 5,000 to push the buttons to tell the machines what to do, and therefore you got a ton of people in an industry that goes down, and therefore the city goes down, and so therefore people are standing on the corners looking for jobs and this, that, and the other. And then once you're trained in such a specialty, in terms of like a crane operator for a steel, and because steel is specific industry. If you're a molder, if you're doing something,
sure.
So if there's not a job for a molder for steel anymore anywhere, I mean, you got to switch reels. What do you do at that point?
Exactly. Well, see, and we're talking the same thing, but that backs up to your youth too. What I'm saying is, okay, when you grew up in a community that those jobs are the ones that's there, they are the predominant jobs. If you can get those jobs, if you can get that job,
right?
But what does that say about the youth that's trying to out of high school? Get a job, and what I'm saying is, and I went through it. You couldn't just go and get a job at Zayre's, or whatever it was up the street. You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
It made it harder if it's hard for the fathers and the mothers to get a decent job, that trickles down to the youth.
Yeah.
To the youth, where that dad has got the job, whether it be white, black, whatever, he's got that job up there. He's going to see to it that his daughter getting out of high school or just starting to work is going to get that job at McDonald's. But at that time when I grew up, I remember when they first brought in the first McDonald's in Hammond. You know, I remember when they first brought in the first Church's Chicken in Hammond. You know, matter of fact, Church's Chicken was the first one to introduce jalapenos with the chicken. You know, I remember those days.
All right.
And you couldn't get those jobs as a youth. You couldn't get those jobs, especially being right there in East Hammond. You couldn't. There was not enough jobs.
Right, and so
wasn't enough jobs. So you had youth that were in, freshmen, sophomore, getting to that working age. I'm talking about where they 15, 16
right.
years old, where they could work.
Right.
It was cut back on what you could do. It was nothing you can do.
Right. But so the trend of thought would be, in order to not be in that situation for the people who may be reading this transcript, is to possibly diversify, meaning learn more than one discipline of something, because once that's done, or you have an expiration date on one, that other discipline that you learn can kick in, or the other one, because a lot of people. I mean, look at Jeff. I mean, from singing to playing piano look at D playing guitar to playing. At one point, he was running track. D meaning Dwayne McClendon.
Yeah. I remember when D was running track.
Oh yeah.
Because he was behind me in school, but I remember when he was running track, I was playing ball at Hammond High.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, it makes it harder for today, because today's kids don't have the parents that we had.
Yeah,
that pushed us to no matter you go for what you can do. Nowadays we have kids, parents that don't even know where the kids are. It's sad.
Right.
It's really sad.
And
you can't compare kids from when we grew up to kids now, because the parenthood is not there to where we grew up.
Right.
The community is not there.
But one thing is possible, is that in every one of these conversations that I have with a person 60 or up, or older, from Hammond, there are nuggets of gold in the stuff that you say, the stuff that Albertine Cherry says, and just there's a whole lot of people from Leo Harwell on down that are saying nuggets of gold. And so what you do is you take what you need. You can throw the rest away, but you take what you need, and there's a gold rush there in knowledge of the older generation from Hammond. And so the goal here is to extract a little bit of gold from a Ricky Durr, from a Henry Poindexter, from this, that, and the other. So, and pretty soon you have a bucket of gold to draw upon to make yourself a better life with some of the knowledge. And so it doesn't matter if you're a younger generation and you came from a parent who, sometimes kids have kids and they can't learn from, the kids can't learn from their parents because they were kids and they didn't know anything.
Right.
But
exactly.
If you look at your elders, look at your stuff that your mom used to tell you, and as a matter of fact, I was going to ask you, can you remember any other sayings that your mom or dad said that resonated with you even today, and that you've told your kids? If you can remember anything, it would be, say it now, forever hold your peace. And I know I put you on the spot by even asking.
No, you didn't. One thing that what they used to tell me is just because someone waddles in the mud, you don't have to waddle in the mud with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That mine said the same thing. If you somebody jump off the cliff, you gonna jump off the cliff too. I mean,
Right. Right. But they told me in the respect of, because someone else is talking down or belittling or hurting.
Right.
You don't have to stoop to their level. You know,
Right.
It's the old saying of take the high ground.
Take the higher road. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Take the high road.
Right.
You know, you remember who you are, and don't let them tear you down or bring you down to their level. That's one, and then let me see. There's another one that my dad used to tell me is only the strong survive. He used to tell me that one. And if it doesn't kill you, it only helps you.
Right. It'll make you stronger. What
Exactly.
what doesn't kill you will make you stronger, and you hear that in church.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to go through it. Be in it to win it.
Exactly. And mommy said it's all a learning process. Mommy should tell me.
Oh yeah.
She should tell me it's a learning process, and she should tell me you won't see it now, but it's going to make you stronger at the end. You know,
It's just if you are smart enough to adhere to what you've just learned, and even if you failed, it's okay because you've learned something from that failure. If you've learned something. Now, if you haven't learned anything, you're gonna keep failing. You know?
I had a talk, and to go along with that, I had a talk with a son of mine about 2 months ago. My younger son, he's 27, and I told him, I said, son, it's all right to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. The thing is, don't make that same one again.
Right.
If you realize it's a mistake. And I said, do you think that was a mistake? He said, yes, Dad. Well, that's fine. We learn from our mistakes. The mistake is to do it again.
Right.
And I said, if you carry that with you in life, and we learn, because we're not perfect. I told him the only perfect person on this earth walked on water. We walk on dirt. We have. I have never known one person to walk on water. You know.
No, I haven't gotten that trick down yet, but I'm still trying. But I keep sinking.
I said, we walk on dirt, son. And so, due to the fact that we walk on dirt, he already said that we're gonna make mistakes and we're gonna sin. We're gonna do that.
Right.
And he'll forgive you for it. And man should forgive you for it.
Right.
But
so let me ask you this. What is the one thing? I mean, you know, since you came from Hammond and you grew up at a time where, you know, you learned a lot of stuff, and you know, nobody was rich in Hammond. Well, I didn't know if anybody was rich, but anyway.
No, I didn't either.
So
I was a little before you, so I didn't know anybody rich.
So let me ask you this: what is the one thing? And you moved away. You're in Florida.
No, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, Texas. I'm sorry, you're in Texas. So, what is the one thing that you've brought with you from Hammond that has made you a better person? Is there anything that you got from Hammond that you inherited?
Yes, I would say. Love thy neighbor the best I can, even though it's hard. You know, because I grew up in that neighborhood environment. You know, as far as that's the way I was raised, and it's hard at times. It's so hard. You know, I've lived since I've been here. I've been here 36 years, I've lived in the 36 years. I've owned 3 houses in the 36 years, and I've lived in neighborhoods where down here that the neighbors don't speak. They don't speak or anything like that. And but yes, I would continue on because that's the way. I can remember living on the porch and living in East Hammond. People ride down East Hammond and they wave and they speak.
Right.
And I try to do that. I do that, you know, as far as neighbor.
And that's a good one. It's just being open to more information and from everyone, from love to
Right.
general information. And it would be hard to exist being 100% closed-minded and not accepting other stimulus and information. So I get it.
Right. Right. Right.
I get it.
So that I take from Hammond, because even now I can remember sitting on my mom's house on Conkey or on Moss. Everybody used to speak and wave when they go by.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I do the same. I speak to people when I pass them in the store. You know, and say thank you and courteous, and you know, even though in example we grew up with that, but that was, I mean, we didn't grow up with that, but we did know how to speak to people.
Right. Right. Do you think, with the new makeup of Hammond, when I say the new makeup, it's different from when we were growing up there, and it's a new generation of people who may not even know their next door neighbor. The fact that you could list your next door neighbors on different streets is commendable, and it's a different time period. Is there anything that the older generation of Hammond, or the original people from Hammond and this, that, and the other, who are still alive, whatever, but are there anything that they can impart upon in terms of the new people who've moved here, who may not have that sense of community, that in order to get that sense of community, what can they do to help?
Well, see, from what I'm talking with Ricky and those back now, I'm uncertain, because now we're on the other side of Maywood. Now it's all, but at the time when I grew up, all on the other side is Maywood. Now is people from Chicago. Chicago's moving in.
Right.
So it's not the same neighborhood. You know,
right. But I'm just saying, the original people of Hammond, what can they give the people of Chicago to make them feel more at home, and to be more open, and to have what we used to have?
Right. I guess it would start with just a handshake and saying, "Hey, welcome to the neighborhood. And how you doing?" If that's feasible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it all starts in, and I'm just talking from experience in my life. It makes you feel good when somebody moves in the block and says, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, I'm so and so. You know, and actually the white family started out years ago, and then later I picked up on it, and I've been, hey, the neighborhood moving the block, let's take them some cookies. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Let's bake some cookies and welcome to the neighborhood. You know, I think a lot of neighborhoods, like in East Hammond situation, is they probably feel like, well, who are you? Why are you here? And that's the wrong type of attitude.
Right.
Right. It's like, okay, you got a neighbor coming in, let's welcome the neighbor. You don't know nothing about him, but you can at least extend that handshake.
Mm-hmm.
And if it turns out to be worse later on, but you can at least say you did what you could and to make them. But now I think what it is, we didn't have that standoffish.
Mm-hmm.
Back when as far as the neighborhood is now, possibly now everybody is. They probably got neighbors that they feel, well, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I don't know who they are. But I think that would be a big help. They'll say, and you get more kindness with honey than vinegar.
Okay, I like that. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
So is there any other anecdotal things or sayings or anything that that you want to leave us with that gives a sense of what Hammond was and what it is now and what it could be? Is there anything that could help uplift? And you said a little bit, but I just want to know if there's any other things.
Well, being kind is free. It doesn't cost a thing.
Okay.
And being good to people doesn't cost a thing. And everybody's life, you're going to need somebody at some time. So why not it be your neighbor?
Right. Right.
Why not? Why close the door on your neighbor?
Right.
Yeah, because there's no one in this life that can't. If a person says they can go on in life and don't need anybody, they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't you count on your neighbor? If you can't count on nobody at all, why not your neighbor?
Right. Okay. And you say you got a lot of this philosophy from just growing up in Hammond with the fact that you said, I talked to Terry the other day and this, that, and the other. You obviously still keep in contact with your Hammond roots.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
connections.
Hammond, Dwayne, Ricky, I got them all. I know them all. We've all, of course, we're in various parts of the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we still talk to each other and reminisce, and so we all grew up on that. We all grew with that same backbone,
Right.
You take a body and you remove the backbone. What do you have?
That's right. Flubby, nothing. But well, listen, Henry, I really appreciate having this conversation with you, and it really wasn't like, we were just reminiscing kind of thing, but I really appreciate this, and just know that 10, 15, 20, 50 years from now, people will be able to go into the Hammond Library and read this transcript, and also listen to the audio file to hear how it was at a certain time period in Hammond. And obviously I'm talking to older people than you and I too, and they have a totally different perspective than what we have. And then at one point we're going to open it up to younger people, and they'll have yet a totally different perspective of Hammond.
I'm sure.
So it's about what Hammond is to the demographics of whoever we're talking to at the time. So, but this is very much appreciated to have this conversation. And at one point, if you can shoot me over some of those, text me some of those numbers, like maybe Frida, and who else did we say? You mentioned somebody else that...
well, you got Dee and you have Dwayne.
Yeah. Well, Teddy is a part of this project, and so Teddy McClendon. So me and Teddy are doing this thing together, and I'm talking to 100, and he'll talk to 100. And hopefully we'll get volumes of this, because there's no right or wrong answer in these things. It's just the experience that people have.
Sure.
And some people thought that there was no racism whatsoever, none. And then some people said, yeah, there's racism. And then the people who thought there was nothing, I'd say, well, could you live on the other side of the park? Oh, no, we couldn't live over there. Well, is that racism?
When I grew up, on the other side of Maywood was all white over there.
Right.
The other side of Calumet was all white. And matter of fact, I said we had a big clash with those on the other side of Calumet at the time. Matter of fact, Eugene, my son, had a clash with, and he's 43. My son Eugene.
Right.
He had a clash with those on the other side of Calumet, over there behind Rand McNally, and over there.
Well, what happened?
He's telling me that they used to get into clashes, and they'd run onto this side of Calumet, and they knew they felt they were all right once they got over onto the east Hammond side, over to our side, down where you lived and I lived, and where you lived on Conkey.
Right.
Once they got over Calumet, across over to the other side, they could stop running.
It's like, okay, we can walk now.
We can walk now.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, and I said, y'all went through that too? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, we went through.
That's funny. Okay. Well, anyway, so once again, thank you for this conversation, and you got my number, so let's.
All right.
Hit me up anytime.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right. Likewise.
Okay. So, and don't
All
forget to text me those numbers, though.
Okay then.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Cool.
No problem. Goodbye.